everyone, my name is Wendy Ivy Martinez and I make videos about books and things. And today we are doing a wrap-up of December. Everything that I read, because honestly, December was pretty hard of a month for me. I was in quite the reading slump. So I'm going to go over the audiobooks that I listen to, and then I'm going to go over the actual physical books that I have. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so starting off, we have The Night Shift by Alex Finley. Now, this book is a thriller in which we basically follow a cast of characters. We follow the one main character who was this girl who actually ended up being the only survivor of this murder that happened in not Best Buy, Blockbuster in the 90s, and she grew up to be a psychiatrist or a therapist specifically for people with incidents where that sort of happened to them. And then we follow a pregnant detective, and then we follow this girl that is also the sole survivor of another murder incident. And then we follow this other guy who is a lawyer whose brother secretly is the one that's been the prime suspect for the murders. I enjoyed it as we went along. I liked the audiobook specifically because the wide range of characters were played by different people, so it was like a wide casting. It wasn't like one person playing every single part, so I really liked that. However, it was very forgettable. Like, even though I just read this last month, I don't really remember too much of it. You know, and then the ending, the plot twist, the murder, when we find out who exactly did all the murders, it wasn't like a jaw-dropping moment. It was like, okay. This book was a 3 out of 5 stars for me. I honestly can't say too much on it because, again, even though I just read it last month, I've already forgotten it. I don't even remember. The next audiobook that we're going to talk about is it was actually my number one worst book of 2023, and that is the Bromance Book Club. I hated this book so much. It was so annoying. So in this book, we basically follow this man whose wife is literally on the verge of divorcing him. Like, she kicked him out. She doesn't want anything to do with him, but he really wants his wife back. So he joins his friends, and his friends basically come up with this book club called the Romance Book Club, in which they read romance books that women enjoy and try to pick up little things that these men in the books do that women actually like in real life and try to use that on their significant other. And the concept honestly sounded really good. Like, the concept sounds great, right? But the execution was just not there. The characters were very annoying. I hated every single one of these characters. The woman, the reason why she kicked him out, I just thought was so freaking stupid. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I understand couples have their problems, but I just feel like she just had more to work on herself, that she didn't need to take it out on him. You know, it's more like a thing that she should have worked on her own versus like pulling him into it. Do you get what I mean? I don't know. And then our main guy is like, I don't know, I just felt like he was a little too desperate, you know? And it's like, it was so annoying. Like, he was so cringe, and it was just annoying. Like, I just hated everyone. The sister was like, oh, we don't like him. Like, and it's like, shut the F up. Like, you don't even, like, this man did nothing wrong. Like, why are you hating on him? It was just so annoying, and I'm so sorry. That is The Train by Train. Anyways, I hated this book so much. 0 out of 5 stars. Actually, I think I gave it like a 1 out of 5 star. I actually did finish this, but I listened to the audiobook at like the fastest speed possible because I was like, whatever, like, please just finish it already. I'm done. And I hated it. So that was a 1 out of 5 stars. So now that we're moving on to the books that I have physical copies of, then I'm going to sort it through star ratings. So my star rating is 1, I hated it. 2 stars, I didn't like it. 3 stars, it was okay. probably forgettable. 4 stars, it was great. And 5 stars, it's like God tier, okay? Like, it's rare. If I give a 5 star, that means I loved that book, okay? This month, in the month of December, we actually had no 5 stars. Okay, we had no 5 stars this month. And that's probably another reason why I was so, like, in a reading slump. I read a lot of crappy books, but we did have a 1 star. We had a 2 star. We had quite a lot of 3 stars, actually. Low 3 stars to like upper 3 stars. And then we had a few 4 stars. But we had no 5 stars. This was a 2 star, but I think I'm gonna knock it down and I'm gonna make it 1 star, because this book was another one that was on the worst of the year, top 10 worst of the year books, and it is called Fire and Fate by Serena Valentino. This book I was so excited for because it is supposed to be the origin story to Hercules's Hades, and I was so excited for it, okay? Like, I was excited for it because I was curious as to how much they're going to tie in the actual origins behind the Greek mythology Hades and the Disney Hades, and this book honestly didn't really do either. Like, the Hercules Hades, he didn't act at all like the Hercules Hades, and the only thing that they took from the Greek mythology Hades was that they added Persephone into the story. However, he didn't even care about Persephone, which was really irritating, and said he cared about these like other random witches that aren't even a part of Greek mythology, and I'm like, who? It was just so annoying. I hated Hades, you know, like, he was not at all like Hercules' Hades. He didn't act like him at all. He didn't care at all about Persephone, which is like ridiculous, because in the Greek mythology, he obviously loved her enough to literally steal her. He was obsessed with her. He stole her and took her down to the underworld because he was obsessed. For him to just all of a sudden not give 2 damns about her, it just made no sense to me. I hated this book. Okay, I didn't enjoy it at all. It had nothing for me. It did nothing for me. So that is my 1 star. I read Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. So in the worst books of the year video that I did, I actually mentioned that I read quite a lot in 2023. That I'm really starting to realize what my tastes are in books and what they're not. And it really feels like rom-coms or like typical romances with Hallmark endings are just not my thing. They're so predictable. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm reading the same story over and over, and I just know how it's gonna end already. That I just feel like they're just not my cup of tea anymore. I just don't enjoy them. Like, if you're gonna give me a romance, it needs to have some other subplot. You know what I mean? Like a fantasy romance, I enjoy that because there is some sort of fantasy elements to the story, or a horror romance, paranormal romance, dark romance. Like, if it gives me something else, some other subplot, then I enjoy it a lot more than a regular cheesy Hallmark romance. And that's what I got with this. Love and Other Disasters. In this book, we follow this woman and a non-binary person, and they are basically on a baking competition, and they start to fall in love. So it's a friends to lovers romance. However, I just feel like the fact that it was taken place on a baking competition, they could have done so much more with it, but the baking competition was hardly even mentioned. Like, it wasn't like a huge factor in the story, and I'm like, if you're gonna put a baking competition in a romance, like, please put it more in there. Like, you have it in there for a reason. I feel like they could have done a lot more with it than they actually did. The actual 2 characters and the love story was cute. It was adorable. I enjoyed that aspect of it. However, I just felt like it felt really flat for me. It felt really flat for me because it was a baking competition. Like, give me baking competition things. Don't just give me don't put a romance in a baking competition if there's not going to be any baking competitionness. Like, it just could have been a lot better. They could have done so much with it, you know, and they didn't. Like, it's another one of that, like, the concept was amazing, the execution pretty poor. Speaking of romances, I read another romance Hallmark ending book, and that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is my first Emily Henry book, and this was the one that was like praised a lot, so I thought I would really enjoy it. And I liked the concept of like two grumpy characters. Like there wasn't that grumpy sunshine dynamic. They were both grumpy. And I enjoyed that. And I did like the little banter between the two. However, I just felt like, again, it was just so predictable. And the ending, again, so predictable. I felt like I was just watching a Hallmark movie. That it just, again, felt a little bit flat for me. I should have known what I was getting into when I picked up the romance book, but again, at the time, I didn't realize how much I just don't enjoy romance the way that I thought I would. So this is going to be a 3-star because I should have known getting into it that it was just going to be a typical romance with a Hallmark ending. However, I did like the two grumpy characters and the banter between them. Next 3-star book is Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. So you guys probably know that I don't really read middle grade or children's fiction or even YA, but I have a 9-year-old, and my 9-year-old just read this in school and she swears it's her favorite book, and she was like, "Mom, you have to read it." So we bought it and she made me read it, and I read it within like an hour or two, and we talked about it. We discussed the book because that's what my 9-year-old wanted to do with me. And it was cute, okay? I enjoyed this. In this book, if you guys don't know, we follow this young girl who's basically the daughter of a pastor, and she's pretty lonely because she just moved into this new town. And she goes into this grocery store one day where she sees this dog, and the dog is about to be taken to the pound when she's like, no, don't take it to the pound. That's my dog. And they're like, "Oh, really? What's its name?" And she named it after the grocery store, which is Winn-Dixie. And she takes it home, and we just see her companionship, the companionship between her and this dog, and it's just so adorable. You guys probably already know, I love dogs. If something happens to a dog in a movie, I can't watch it. If something happens to a dog in a book, I can read it, but it's really hard for me. Like, it really messes me up. Like, that's why Tender is the Flesh really messed me up. It really messes with me. So I enjoyed that we got a book about a dog where the dog doesn't die. Okay, that makes me happy, where we just get to see the beautiful companionship that dogs give. I love that about this book. So this is a higher rated 3-star. All right, so we're back with another 3-star. This is, again, another higher 3-star. So think of this like a 3.8, 3.9. And that is Go the Distance by Jen Calonita. Now, and this is a twisted tale. So this is basically, what if Meg became a Greek god and she basically had to save her ex, you know, the one that left her and like she sold her soul to Hades for. What if she had to save his wife from the underworld in order to become a Greek god, in order to be with Hercules? And that is that story. This I really enjoyed because Hercules is literally my favorite Disney movie of all time. And the day that I started this, I actually watched Hercules and then I started reading this. The author really did do an excellent job of portraying each character exactly as they are in the Disney Hercules movie. Hades was spot on, Meg was spot on, Phil was spot on, Hercules. Everybody was spot on to their role and to their personality that they have in the Disney's Hercules movie, that I really felt like I was reading a follow-up, like the second part to that movie. I felt like I was reading the story behind it. The only reason why it's not a 4 or 5-star is because of what happened with the ex. I was hoping that he was gonna be a jerk. You know, I was hoping that he was not gonna be a good guy, but they did give him redeemable qualities. and I wanted to hate him. So that's the only reason why it's not like a 4-star or even a 5-star. That's it. That's the only reason why. But other than that, it was very enjoyable and just a fun read. Now we are moving on to my 4 stars, because like I said, I got no 5 stars in this during the month of December, which sucks. So starting with my first 4-star, it was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid, I have like a love-hate relationship with her, okay? I've read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I really enjoyed it. However, I don't think it deserved the hype. I don't know. I just still think it's overhyped. Same thing with this book. It was good. I really enjoyed it. The audiobook, amazing, full cast. However, I don't understand the hype behind it. I still think it's very overhyped. It was enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. I really did love it. I mean, I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. But I just don't think it deserves, I don't know, I don't want to say it didn't deserve it. I just still think it's overhyped. That's all I gotta say. It was good. Okay, in this one we follow Daisy Jones and the Six. We basically follow first the Six. So we follow Billy and his brother as they start a band, and then they start to get serious about it. And as they get serious, the person, the manager, whoever is behind the band and like the famousness of the band was like, you got to add some female vocals to your band. So he decides to add Daisy Jones, and we follow this rock band into stardom and into fame. And of course, with that comes the addictions to drugs, to like sex, and all these things that rock and roll is like known for. And it was really good. I really did enjoy it. Like I said, it was a 4 out of 5 star. It's memorable. I feel like it really is going to stick a lot out in my head. However, it didn't have the over-the-top factor that God tier 5-star has for me. But it was overall a very enjoyable book. Like I said, Taylor Jenkins Reid, I love her. Do I think it's like, does it need to be as hyped up as it is? No. Last but certainly not least, we have One Day in December by Josie Silver. Now this book, yes, it is a romance, okay? It is not only is it a romance, it is a December Christmas romance. So the reason why I picked this one up is because my niece chose it for our IRL book club. I have a real life book club with my niece. She chose this book and she didn't even like it. She didn't even finish it. She hasn't even finished it because she said it's so boring. However, I liked it because, like I said, even though this is a romance, it is a romance with like a subplot behind it, I guess. It's just a more, it's not that it has a subplot, it has a more realistic twist. In this book, we basically follow this girl, what's her name? Lori. Lori, as she is basically going on a bus stop, right? Where she sees this man that she thinks is so beautiful. And so every single day she tries to go to the bus stop and tries to find him again because they make eye contact and she's like, oh my God, he's the love of my life. Like, I need him. And for a whole year, Lori literally goes looking for this guy and she never finds him until her best friend introduces her to her new boyfriend, and it happens to be this guy that she's been so obsessed with for over a year. And she's like, oh shoot, my best friend's dating him now, and they've been together for a few months, and she's never seen her best friend so in love. So she decides that she's gonna keep her mouth shut and she is not going to say anything to her best friend about how this was the guy that she was obsessed with for over a year, because she sees how happy her best friend is. And we follow her best friend, Lori, and this guy over the course of 10 years. And it was just so good. Okay, like at first it started off very cheesy and rom-com-y that I was like, I'm not gonna like this. But as we went through the years and we see Lori and, you know, her struggles with her love life. We see her as she gets into new relationships. We see the fallings out of these relationships. We see like marriages, and we see divorce, and we see the realness and the reality of love. We see her as she gets into love. She falls in love. We see the other characters as they fall in love and as they fall out of love. And it was just so accurate, like such an accurate depiction of actual romance and actual love and how an actual relationship forms, you know, gets stronger and then eventually ends. You know, I love how it even had the endings to some of these romances. I just loved it. I just loved it because it wasn't Hallmarky. It was Hallmarky, but it had more substance to it and more realness, more rawness, more, like, I related to it a lot more than like a typical Hallmark romance, because you can feel the pain. You can feel the heartbreak. You can feel what it feels like to fall in love, have that taken from you after you form this bond with someone for years, and then just have it completely ripped out of you. And it was so good. Like, it was so good. So I rated this one. This one's like a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me, just because I really did, even though it was a rom-com, or not a rom-com, but like a romance, it had so much more to it. It just had that realisticness. It had that depth. It had those painful moments that are in real romances that a lot of typical romances like to avoid. So I liked that. I like the darkness and beautiful things. And this had the darkness and the beauty that is love and romance. So that is this one. That is it. I hope you guys, anyways, that is it, you guys. I read a total of, how many books was that? 9? I read 9 books in December, okay? And that was like, and I was in a reading slump, you guys. Anyways, you guys, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to be notified when I post. I post twice a week. I post Mondays and I post Fridays. Also, make sure to click the link below for my book talk, as well as my Goodreads, because I would love to be friends with you on Goodreads. Let's pump each other up on our reading goals and how we're doing with our reading goals and how we're doing with reading in general. Yes, so all that, as well as my Amazon book wish list, is down below as well. But anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!